everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Eclectic Reader. So I will be making a wrap-up video of all of the books that I've been reading in the past few months, but I thought that a great way to get back into booktube would be to talk about the books that I'm excited to read in the fall. I'm hoping to read many books in October that are a little bit more spooky, not really horror. I might read one Stephen King though, because I've never read Stephen King, and I'm thinking of reading his book Misery, I think is the title, which seems like a proper horror novel. So I do want to read a Stephen King, but as you will see, many of the books that I've got out are cozy mysteries, which of course is my favorite genre. I will start first with some of the science nonfiction that I want to read, one of which I've already started, and that's Hurricane Lizards and Plastic Squid, which is by Thor Hansen. I need to make an entire video of Thor Hansen's books. I think he's one of the best nature writers we have today. He is a scientist himself. His work is very accessible. He presents biological concepts in ways that are very accessible. He has a book on seeds and the biology of seeds that I've read. I've also read his book Buzz, which is on bees, native bees, particularly in the United States, not just honeybees, which are actually from Africa. And this book, Hurricane Lizards and Plastic Squid, The Fraught and Fascinating Biology of Climate Change, is his most recent publication, I think in 2020 or 2021. And it looks at climate science, not so much the cause of global warming, there are so many books about that, but the effect of global warming on various species. Not just the negative effect, but also how certain species have adapted to global warming. I am really enjoying it so far. Like I said, he's a very engaging writer, and I will make an entire video about Thor Hansen because I think he's one of the best science writers, like biology science writers, that we have today. I also have this book called Monarchs of the Sea, The Extraordinary 50 Million Year History of Cephalopods, I think that's how it's pronounced, cephalopods, by Dana Staff. This book looks fantastic. I have never read a book about cephalopods. I have a little bit of a background in invertebrate zoology, and of course these are invertebrates, but I've focused on insects, so it's going to be really interesting to learn about cephalopods, and I think the author is a biologist herself. Yeah, she has a PhD in invertebrate biology from Stanford University. So I'm hoping that this will also be a highly engaging but very informative book on cephalopods. So that would include octopuses, nautiluses, and squids. Maybe even the giant squid, who knows? So that's the science books that I have. I also have a ginormous biography of Elizabeth II. Here it is. I placed it on hold, so I really need to read this in the next few weeks before my time with this book is over. As you might imagine, the wait list at the library is huge for this book. I am not a huge fan of the British royal family. Actually, I don't find royalty to be something that I would ever want. I'm not attracted to royalty or royal families. But I've always wanted to understand Elizabeth II. Ever since she passed away, it's made me aware of how little I know of British history during her lifetime. And Robert Hardman, who's the author of Queen of Our Times, was a consultant for The Crown, which was a BBC series. I saw, I think the first season. I never really continued the series. I really enjoyed it, but I have this issue with watching and completing television shows. Like, I'll start them, I'll watch a few episodes, and then I'll put it aside. It's nothing against the show, I just didn't finish it. So because of that, I've wanted to read this biography. I've heard it's a pretty balanced biography. There's just a lot of opinions about Elizabeth and about the Windsor family. So I want to read a balanced but fairly comprehensive biography. And this one seems to be it. But yes, I really need to get to this because, as you might imagine, a lot of people want it. Then I have some other books that aren't exactly Halloween-y. I have 1,000 Ships by Natalie Hayes. 1,000 Ships is a myth retelling, but instead of retelling one myth, I think it follows the lives of women in a variety of ancient epics. So that would include the Odyssey, the Iliad, and maybe the Aeneid. It looks really good. I have started to get into myth retellings ever since I read Kalki by Vaishnavi Patel, which I need to make an entire video about. That one is a retelling of Hindu myth from a woman's perspective. It's like a feminist retelling. So I'm wanting to read another feminist retelling. I haven't read Madeline Miller's books, so maybe I'll get to that eventually, but I thought I'd read 1,000 Ships first. It looks pretty good. And I don't know, it's just not too long, so it looks fairly accessible. All right, let's talk about the mysteries. So this book I have to return on Monday, so I better read it this weekend. This is The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. I read this years and years ago, and I don't remember the plot. That's not uncommon for me. I have this tendency to not remember the plots of books. The Westing Game, I remember enjoying it, so I do want to reread it, and I think that Halloween will be a great time. A bizarre chain of events begins when 16 unlikely people gather for the reading of Samuel W. Westing's will. And though no one knows why the eccentric game-loving millionaire has chosen a virtual stranger and a possible murderer to inherit his vast fortune, one thing's for sure, Sam Westing may be dead, but that won't stop him from playing one last game. This reminds me of Knives Out. I cannot wait to watch the sequel of Knives Out, by the way. I've seen Knives Out twice, so I'm ready for the sequel. And the Westing Game reminds me of that. I don't know if this would be considered a locked room mystery, but I just remember enjoying it, and it's not tremendously long. I picked it off the middle grade shelf, so hopefully I'll be able to read the next few days. Then I finally got a book that was super popular a few years ago, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This book evidently really revolutionized the thriller genre. I know it was very controversial when it came out, and I just think that this is the perfect season to read Gone Girl. Then I have, okay, this is not a mystery, this is actually fantasy, Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon McGuire. This is extremely short. It's like a novella, and it says, twin sisters Jack and Jill were 17 when they found their way home and were packed off to Eleanor West's home for wayward children. This is the story of what happened first. So I guess this is a home for a lot of characters from various stories. This sounds like a lot of fun, a bit magical, so I think it's perfect. And then in terms of cozies, I'm currently reading, actually no, I actually finished this book. Murder in the Bayou, Boneyard by Ellen Byrne. I gave it 3.5 stars. So yeah, I just finished it, so I'll just talk about it really quickly. This is a story that takes place in Louisiana, and this woman, her name is Maggie Crozat. She runs a bread and breakfast, and the problem is that there is this company, kind of like Airbnb, that has been buying out property, and so she and the owners of a variety of different Airbnbs have joined together to put on this month-long series of Halloween-themed events to draw people to their bed and breakfast rather than to, you know, these private houses which have been turned into Airbnbs. This is happening around Halloween time, and a cousin from Canada arrives with her family. She's not a very nice lady. She has been hired by Maggie to work for her spa. So she has a spa that's attached to the bread and breakfast. One thing leads to another, and Stacy, who is the woman, she is found dead, dressed in a rougarou costume. So the rougarou is kind of a version of the werewolf in Louisiana folklore. So now Maggie has to figure out like what happened, who killed her, and it seems like there might be a serial killer on the loose because a few other people die. I did enjoy the story. I thought that the characters, the protagonist, Maggie, was a very interesting character. I would definitely read more books in the series. However, I also felt like the conclusion was a bit convoluted. There was just too many things going on in this mystery. So it was good, and I gave it 3.5 stars, but it wasn't like fabulous. Now, a book that I actually want to read and I've heard really wonderful things about is Mrs. Claus and the Santaland Slangs by Liz Ireland. I combine the holidays in my head at this time of year, so I am perfectly fine with reading a Christmas cozy. This looks like a lot of fun. It says, love is full of surprises, though few compare to realizing that you're marrying the real-life Santa. April Claus dearly loves her new husband, Nick, but adjusting to life in the North Pole is not all sugar plums and candy canes. especially when a cantankerous elf named Giblet Hollyberry is killed, felled by a black widow spider in his stocking shortly after publicly arguing with Nick. This sounds fabulous. I have never read a cozy mystery series set in North Pole, but I feel like that is the perfect place for a Christmas time cozy. And then finally, I have Dead End Detective, which is the first book in a new series by Amanda Flower. I love Amanda Flower. I think she is a fabulous cozy mystery author. And this one seems to be quite a bit different from her others. Like, she has her Amish cozies, and then she has a cozy mystery series that's set in a historical museum in Ohio, in the Cuyahoga Valley region. That's how I was introduced to her, and I really loved those books. I only read 2 of the 3 books, though. I think I need to read the 3rd book. But this one takes place, very different context. It says, Darby Piper is in shock. Samantha Porter, her mentor and business partner at Two Girls Detective Agency, has died in a car crash, and it doesn't look like an accident. In fact, evidence is pointing toward Darby. Darby had expected to inherit Samantha's half of the agency, but Samantha had recently changed the will to leave it to Tate Porter, her nephew, who returns to town. Tate is no PI, he's a veteran, a world traveler, and something of a mystery himself. But as he helps Darby delve into secret histories and real estate development plans, he does seem to have a knack for the job. Can Darby prove her innocence, and will the agency have a future? I wonder if this would actually count as a cozy, since, Tate isn't really a detective, but I guess he's trying to become a detective. So I don't know if this would really count as a cozy, but doesn't bother me, because if it's written by Amanda Flower, I know it's going to be fabulous. So anyway, this is my video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and particularly if you enjoyed any of these books. I can definitely move them up on my TBR. I'm not going to get to all of these in October, most likely. I will focus on the biography of Elizabeth II, and I will focus on some cozies, and maybe get to Gone Girl, because it is definitely going to be a lot darker than the other books. I hope you are having a fabulous week, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.